Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. We have a very special guest on tonight, member of Green Amendment for the Generations, the daughter of Maya Van Rossum, the fabulous Anneke Van Rossum. Thank you so much for coming in your mother's stead, because I know she's busy. And I want to talk about that a bit, too, because it show people, illustrate to people exactly what she's doing and how effective it can be. So that's very cool. However, we got some time, so why not talk about yourself growing up in the Green Amendment for the Generations movement and how you got involved and what you're doing.
Yeah, so my name is Anneke Van Rossum, and I'm Maya's daughter. I guess how it all started, really grew up in just like the tree hugger family. I can't gush about my mom enough. I always say, most people never get to meet their heroes, and I call mine mom. And I mean that very earnestly. She has been like such a huge impact on my life. And her and my oma, so her mom, like really emphasized time in nature. So I spent like basically out the womb, I have been in nature.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Your mom is great. I've talked to her several times. She's a fabulous human being, and I kind of intuited that she would probably be a very good mother.
Yeah, no, she's been, I mean, and it's been, it's one of those, it's easy to see my life journey and think, that it was a handoff because of who my mom is, but she inspired the life path. So I went to Ithaca College for undergrad, where I majored in politics and environmental studies. And then it was great. And I didn't really know what to do next. So I knew I wanted to continue the family legacy of environmental advocacy, and my mom and I had a deep conversation, and that led me to apply to law school. So I actually just graduated last May from Vermont Law School. So I have my law degree now.
Congratulations. What school did you graduate from?
It's called Vermont Law School.
Okay, cool. That's great. Yeah, no, I have a gaggle of friends that are lawyers.
Yeah.
Some of them are in it for the money, which is unfortunate. Other ones are doing good things.
That's it's always a mixed bag. You never know.
Yeah, no, I know. But that's great. Are you practicing right now?
So I actually am not an attorney. I actually didn't go to law school wanting to be an attorney. I really enjoy the policy side of work. So I also work at Delaware Riverkeeper Network, which is, my mom is also the Delaware Riverkeeper. And so I do a lot of policy work over there. The courtroom really wasn't for me. I admire everybody who takes that on, but for me and what I like to do, I think it's too small of a box, and I feel like I can do a better job advocacy in the legislature, in the policy realms, doing things like this, working in communities. So I am not a practicing attorney.
Okay, so no ambitions of taking the bar or anything like that?
I did take the bar, just because why not? But I might get my license later. I'm not sure yet.
I see. Okay.
It's not for me at this phase of life.
I got you. No, that's fine. I know people that went to law school just for the sake of going to law school.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just a really powerful education. So
it's nice. I will say, even though not being an attorney, it is nice when attorneys do attempt to explain the law to me, and I surprise them with yes, I also have my law degree. So no one can really pull the rug out from under me.
That's great. Yeah, no, exactly. You got the inside scoop on how the law works and so on and so forth, and how organizations and governmental entities, manipulate policy to, not advocate for the environment and, clean oil, soil, air, and all that other stuff. So no, that's great. It's a very, very good education to have for that. So good. Yeah. Okay. So when did you get formally involved in GA for the Generations or the Delaware Riverkeepers?
So Delaware Riverkeeper Network has kind of been, volunteering there my whole life. I mean, that was how I kind of think I got inspired into the realm of advocacy, was watching the things my mom doing. And I was very lucky that I basically was almost forced to go to all those meetings with her as a young child, but you really do pick up a lot, and I would see everything that she would do. And so that was always really inspiring. So I would spend my summers working at Delaware Riverkeeper Network and testing that out. And then she did have her big legal battle in 2013 that started this whole movement. And I remember very fondly, she would kind of talk about how she was writing this book and she was doing this thing, but she was like, and I think it's going to be really important. It's going to be really big, but she wouldn't explain it totally yet. So I think probably around 2015, 2016 was when I got really introduced to it. And then that too, I would just really became interested. So helping volunteer with my mom on the sides, spending my summers helping out. And I actually did a semester in law school. You can work for credit. and I decided to go out to New Mexico and help push forward the New Mexico Green Amendment movement in the fall of 2021, I think it was.
Okay. That's very cool, and that's a perfect segue into what your mother's doing now. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what she's doing?
Yeah, so she's out right now in New Mexico helping push that movement. So there is, New Mexico does, I think it's on odd years, it's a 30-day session, or in even years, it's a 30-day session, and odd years, it's a 60-day session. So right now is the 60-day session. So she's out there right now working with fellow grassroots, trying to educate community members, meeting with legislators just to discuss any concerns. And really just pushing the message that the Green Amendment is something that the people should have a right to decide on. And so, hoping that those legislators will get it through the committees so that the people of New Mexico will have the opportunity to vote on if they would like a right to a clean and healthy environment in their constitution.
Yeah, and I talked to your mother about this, I think the last time she was on here, and one of the things I think is important to point out is that you already have the right to a clean environment and a healthy environment. A right is an abstraction. It's not something we think of rights as that which governments allocate to us, and that's not what a right is.
Mm-hmm.
Right is a moral allowance for behavior. So you have the right to everything good.
Yeah.
And period. Okay, it has nothing to do with governments. We keep thinking that we have to. Oh, we're going to give you the right to this. No, you're not going to. It's not yours to give. Okay, so that's important to understand. Rights are inalienable. You're endowed with them by your creator. It's one of the few things our founding fathers got right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, that's very cool. And so is she, this very moment, she's in New Mexico doing this thing. She said something about the legislation. I mean, is she in the General Assembly of New Mexico right now, or where's she at exactly?
So at this moment, I meant to ask her and I didn't get a chance to double check, but I know. So like a lot of the things that end up happening is the bill has to pass through several committees. So it will have to get discussed and voted on. And so like one of the things that she does is just education on that front. So legislators will have questions. They're not sure how it works. So she's just assisting also with our great co-sponsors out in New Mexico, who really do more of that push. But so she's doing a lot of grassroots educating too, and really helping also the people of New Mexico learn about what it is so they can speak up for themselves about the amendment.
Very cool. David Wilcox is here. There's a comment section on the side, by the way, viewers, if you want to comment. And there's a private chat, Anneke, if you need to tell me something while we're talking. Says, David Wilcox just says, love the book. I'm assuming he's referring to your mother's most recent book. Can you speak to that at all?
Oh yeah, so so anybody who doesn't know, there are 2 editions of the book. I think the first one is in 2017, and then the most recent one just came out this November. And so the first edition is obviously the start of the movement, the Act 13 case that inspired it, kind of giving some information. And then the second edition of the book is bringing up some news stories, giving some updates, like what has been happening in New Mexico. And I think something that so first off, you can always order your copy if you go to forthegenerations.org. We have a whole list of places you can buy it from. So if you have your favorite bookstore or company or independent that you want to buy it from, you can go there. Really, we make clear that 100% of the proceeds of that goes back into the movement. My mom is very passionate about that, and everything she does is for the work. So not a single penny comes back to us. It goes right towards the Green Amendment movement. But something that I always love to point to people about these books, because I think when you talk about the movement, it sounds very legal. And so people think it's just going to be one big legal doctrine, right, something you snooze to sleep. But it's really a collection of stories. I mean, I even know one of my law school classmates who read it was like, oh, I thought I was going to be reading a legal doctrine, but it was just all these really inspiring and sad stories of people who wanted or got to use, or if they had the Green Amendment, to fight for their environment. So it's really a great collection of stories, actually, of people, some that will make you smile, some that will break your heart. So I think it's a book for everybody. So don't think you're going to be picking up like a legal textbook.
Right.
And I do have to say, my mom's a great writer. I love the book. So, it's a great.
I read a bunch of the first one, and I thought, yeah, you're right. She's a fabulous writer. I'm sort of a reading snob, and I don't have time for bad writing. So no, she was really engaging. I loved it for sure. David Wilcox saying, I'd love to see the Green Party of the United States endorse this. And actually, yes, as would I. And actually, a lot of people in the Illinois Green Party, like this for the show is for, want to get involved and see how we can help bring that movement to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
There was some difficulty, like somebody from the Illinois Green Party went on the website and tried to put the Green Party in, and it said it was only for individuals or something. It's something we can talk about after the show, or maybe he just didn't do it right. So I mean, we really want to get this movement here in Illinois for sure.
Yeah.
So like I said, after we end the show, stick around. We can chat a little bit, okay?
For sure.
David Wilcox also said she's right. It's really good. I'm assuming he means the book. Yeah, no, it's fabulous. It's very informative. And you're right. And it might sound ironic, but sadness is inspiring. It inspires you to get rid of the cause of the sadness. So it's not meant just to bring you down. So that's cool. Very cool. All right. So what do you do specifically for the movement itself? Tell me about some of your own treks and adventures through this movement.
Yeah, I mean, so currently something that I just do, and it's just something I do in my free time because I think it's really interesting, is I help out with a lot of our social media, which I find, I don't know if you can call it like a hobby, but it's very fun for me to take these like really dense concepts and I think boil them down into cool graphics and share that with people. And because I think what I think is so amazing about this movement is like, sure, you can get into, and I've heard legislators, I've heard teachers, I've heard individuals say like, well, this is too complicated. I mean, I even remember I did actually have a meeting with a New Mexico legislator who made the point to me that they knew better what the people of New Mexico would understand and their constituents, and that their constituents wouldn't understand what this amendment really was and what it really meant. And I found that honestly very not true, because
that's a blatant lie.
Yeah.
Who doesn't understand a clean environment and a right to it? That's two parts to that statement.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's like, sure, if we want to get into, of course there's legal doctrines, of course there's minutia, of course there's things that lawyers
legalese, and sure.
Yeah, and like of course we can get into that, and that will be difficult and take time for people to understand. But when you really when you even just say the phrase "your right to breathe," even if you don't want to do the whole amendment, you just say your right to breathe clean air is as powerful as your right to free speech. 100%. People get that.
Yes.
And it takes no more than that to inspire people. So I have found a lot of fun in trying to get these cool graphics and things out. And it's just something that I think I'm very passionate about it with my mom. So helping her out with things, I don't do a little bit of all. I mean, she is the workhorse. She is the power horse of the whole movement. That would not get where it is today if not for her. But yeah, I think that's a lot of it has been just kind of making that point that the people want this, and anybody who says that they don't or that they don't understand really hasn't actually engaged that much with the public, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I agree. And one of my concerns too about and maybe you can speak to this specifically, I don't know, is that what would stop any sort of progress to get these bills into state constitutions or even the federal one, because that'd be awesome. That would just take care of all of it. Is going to be corporate donations, lobbying, and all sorts of behind the veil agreement negotiations and stuff like that. Because like you said, it's a no-brainer that this is a right. There's but so I think to myself, what would make a rational, moral person, pretending that politicians are rational and moral, not want to advocate for this bill? Well, it's got to be some sort of moral bias or corruption against it. Not moral. That's definitely not moral. Just some sort of financial corruption or something like that. Like the Koch brothers or whatever, who are polluting the crap out of New York's rivers, are putting money in Chris Christie's pockets to make sure that this bill doesn't go in or something like that. It's not the first time that would have happened. It's not going to be the last, and it's highly expected that it's probably what is exactly happening. Do you agree?
So for me, I think so. First off, to your federal point, I just also want to for everyone to know too. The federal constitution is great, or federal amendment, but you have to get it in all the states first, because first you need a 3/4 majority anyways to amend the federal constitution. So if you have 3/4 of the states, and then also the states' constitutions can be more powerful than the federal constitution, and just because one of those things ends up in the federal constitution doesn't mean that the states automatically have to abide by it.
Because that's what I was thinking when I said that. So can you explain that? Because I've never heard that before. I thought if it was federal law, it means it applied to literally everybody.
So states are the concept would be that states are actually allowed to make those. I don't want to say more stringent, and it has been a minute since I've had to explain the separation clause, so I don't want to misquote constitutional law. But like, if the federal constitution, let's say, it just said, you know, a right to clean air, and sure that applied to everybody, the states have the power to make their Bill of Rights more powerful. So it's better if we can get in each state a more powerful Bill of Rights section. Yeah, that's
So,
my
like,
understanding. If somebody reads constitutional law and I'm getting this wrong,
yeah, I don't know. Where's Barack Obama?
You can like throw the federal constitution out.
Yeah, like if like the 13th Amendment came out, so freeing the slaves in like Texas said no. You know, we're not doing that. So, you know, I don't think that would have gone well. But okay, but that's something I'm going to look into, or maybe it's kind of like a little bit of both. I don't know. But that's really interesting. That's very cool. Okay, cool. So like, describe a day that you have when you get up in the morning, you go to work on the Green Amendment for the Generations or the Delaware River Keepers Project. What do you do?
Yeah, so for Delaware Riverkeeper Network, and I just also too really quick on the because you asked me about the politicians point. You know, while there are definitely, and we even did have in New Mexico at a meeting, we knew that representatives of the Koch brothers actually were coming out to speak against it, which honestly I thought was, I mean, not great, but okay, like there's real power behind this if the Koch brothers are
afraid, they're threatened. Yeah, that's great. You're right.
Yeah, and so while there definitely, you know, are politicians that take money, I definitely, having worked in New Mexico, I have to say, and there are these legislators and these politicians who are just the most, and you know, across the states too, these are just the ones I worked with really closely, the most amazing human beings who really are trying to advocate for the people. They're on the ground. And New Mexico specifically is a volunteer legislature. So they're really like,
what is that?
They're not getting they're not getting cut a paycheck for this necessarily.
Really?
Yeah.
State level?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're called a volunteer legislature, so I'd have to look into like more specifically. But it's really
that's interesting. Okay, I mean that's good. I mean, since the days of Plato, he said the politicians should get paid. He's like, it says you're honoring your duty to serve the public.
I think there's definitely a merit in getting a paycheck for a lot of the.
But then I'm wondering, like, do they have to work full time and also legislate, and does that become a problem?
I don't know. Those aren't things that I delve that much into. So
I'll have to check that out. I'm also wondering if, like, you know, okay, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but just that you know, while there definitely are people that need to be checked, I just always like to make clear that there are so many good politicians who are really just trying to advocate, and that's one of the ways we get the Green Amendment through, is having these really amazing politicians and legislatures who really believe in this and want to bring it to the state's communities. So I just always like to make that.
No, that's good that you bring that up, because I mean, I've generated my own, constructed my own bias, I guess, against some of these guys, and I should be a lot more fair than that, because I try to be fair in my reasoning. Like I've done so much research on American policing. Like, it's hard for me to look at any cop and go, oh, you might be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I have so many like horror stories in my head that most people don't even know about, and numbers and statistics that I think the whole lot of them are just awful. Anyway, which isn't true, obviously. I just met one the other day, and he was a sweet guy. So, you know, that kind of thing. Anyway, so no, thank you for bringing that up, and, you know, getting rid of some of the bias in my own head for sure. Okay, so anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so waking up. I mean, so yeah, so right now I work at Delaware Riverkeeper Network, and I'm the advocacy and policy coordinator. So right now I do a lot of I'm looking up new policies that are coming into place and seeing where they are in the process, making sure that our organization is able to get that that information out to our community members and general members so they're aware, monitoring some pipeline projects. Actually, something that we just did and that we're having a second one coming up is in November, we had a funeral for sturgeon. So in the in the Delaware River, we have a genetically unique population of Atlantic sturgeon that you can't find anywhere else. And they have been decimated to now, I think it's less than 0.5% of what they were before. So that means 99.5% of the population has been decimated. So we had a funeral in Philadelphia. We had a whole coffin that was created by local students. And then also local students made 250 artistic sturgeon, which represents the 250 still living spawning adults. And so we had a funeral procession around the halls of Philadelphia City Hall. And we brought a lot of attention to that, and we're hoping to do a second event in the spawning season. That's still all up in the air. But so I do a lot of things like that. It's not always glamorous. It's a lot of sitting at my computer, but it's definitely worth it.
Do you get out there on the streets with them?
Yeah, so for that event, I was out there. I was doing a lot of organizing along with other Delaware Riverkeeper Network staff, and then I was out in Philadelphia for that rally.
Okay, that's very cool. Do you see a greater or lesser effect from protests and rallies?
I think activism to me, and that's one of the things why I've always said, like, I don't see myself being an attorney, and that's what I love about activism is it really is one big puzzle of people. You have to have the people who are sitting at their computers and writing those emails and getting those file reviews and doing those big meetings. You have to have those legislators that are pushing the good policies and also working with community activists. You have to have the scientists who are bringing the data for us activists to bring out to the public. And you have to have those people that are, out there on the streets, getting on the news, getting people excited, showing that there is like a real something to be done about it. So that's, to me, it's all part of one big thing, and you can't do one piece without the other, and you can't have success without each piece coming together.
Right. Absolutely. But and some people, like, everybody has their own dispositions, their skill levels, their talents, that kind of thing. I don't know how I would do with like getting arrested at a protest.
I have not gotten arrested.
You haven't?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the protesting part I'd be opposed to. It's the possibility of getting arrested. There's something about being shackled in chains and thrown in a cage that I think I might have to not let them do that. And I don't want to get into that situation either.
Yeah, I had a lot of admiration for people who are able to do it, because I'm not sure I could myself.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I do things like this show and other things as well. I try to set up a situation where I can teach kids about organic gardening,
nice.
and permaculture, so and hopefully not charge them. So make it all non-for-profit, since we're handing them a planet where they might actually have to do their own gardening in order to eat. So so that's the kind of stuff I'm better at, and I'm just better at media than I am at, like, carrying a sign around. And
it's all important, though.
It is all important, absolutely. But each person brings their own dispositions, absolutely, 100%. Canvassing, I know people that like actually enjoy going door to door. I would hate that. My esteem can't handle that much rejection in a day.
Yeah.
But people really like it. I'm like, oh, great, because we need that too, 100%. So that's very cool. And so are these legally established organizations? Like, are you nonprofit organizations? Are you legal organizations? Are you just people? Are you a group of people doing these things?
So Delaware Riverkeeper Network and Green Amendments for the Generations are both 501c3. So so we are like registered nonprofits. But like, especially I can speak to specific, like Green Amendments 2 and DRN. We have our members, and our members, are great at updating us on, hey, like, we'll find out about a lot of bad things happening. Like, hey, I just saw this truck drive through and I think something bad is happening. Or, hey, we just got a letter that they're putting a pipeline in and it's happening in our backyard. So we hear a lot of great things from our members. Or, for Green Amendments too, well, that's a lot of how Green Amendments come into states is individuals who reach out to us and say, hey, I heard, usually I hear Maya on this radio show, or I picked up the book, like, how do I get this here? And so that is a lot of how these things start, is just from everyday people.
That's really great. Is there do members contribute donations and stuff? Like, how does it function as far as administration goes?
Yeah, so it's for a lot of nonprofits. We have for both of them, we have members who donate. We do have also different a lot of nonprofits have a lot of different funders, so grants or private individuals who will help that movement because it's something they believe in. I'm always I tell everybody, nonprofits, and the work we do is, if you believe in something, even if you can only give $1 a month, that makes a whole big difference. And that's why I always make clear about the Green Amendment book, because I truly believe, I'll gush for a second, I truly believe my mom is these once in a generation activist person. And she really, like, nothing goes back into her pockets with the book. It goes right to the movement, because that is always the life that she lived and that she continues to live. And she fights tooth and nail because she truly believes in this movement and the power that it has to save our environment. And it's just so if you want to get something out of a donation, buy a book. Also, you can, getting something out of donation, I always phrase it to people as think about that gift that you're giving to future generations, to maybe your future grandchild that's on the way. If you donated $10, let's say, to Green Amendments, that is your gift to your grandchild that you would like the fight to continue for them to have a healthy environment.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a very good point. And that was one of the reasons I was so attracted to your mother's book and the movement itself, and why I reached out to her in the first place. Was I'm like, when I first came across it, I don't know, I think I just stumbled upon it, that Googling stuff somehow.
That's how it happens. That's how it happens.
No, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. I might not be remembering that right, but that's usually how I find guests. I'm like, oh, that guy looks cool. I'll just, send him an email. But it's just that the importance of it, and just the power of fighting on that front. I always talk about how there are a multitude of fronts that environmentalists have to fight upon, whether it be protesting in the streets or canvassing, petitioning, phone calls, and agricultural fight, not physical fight, but sometimes that works too. But the political front is a very, very formidable and powerful one. If you can get something in a state constitution, holy cats, that's good stuff there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Do you agree?
Yeah. No, I mean, getting it, it was pretty surreal, I guess, 2 years ago. 1 year ago? Time has flown in, in COVID era. But getting it in the New York State Bill of Rights, that was really, really powerful, and it was really amazing to see it come to fruition. And New Mexico, I would love to be the next one because I worked there. But really, I do feel like there's a few states that it's the race to number 4, I keep calling it, and I can't wait to see who gets it. And I don't say if, I say when, because there's so many people that are so passionate. And really, that's like even in each state, in Florida is a big one too, that they're really pushing for it. And it's so inspiring because people truly believe in it. And to see these ground communities, and I really do mean it's a race to number 4, because New Mexico, Hawaii, Florida, their communities are going for it. And I'm like, I'm like really over here with my little pom-poms, like, you go.
I hope that works, because all I keep thinking about is what a loser Ron DeSantis is. But not that he has complete control over the General Assembly down there. So I don't know. He's trying to ban AP, African American Studies. What, are you kidding me? Yeah. That doesn't scream racist. I don't know what does. So okay, you guys are weirdo. But no, that'd be great. Yeah. And is there any sort of like targeting the states that seem a little more like apt to go for it, to like just kind of like get your numbers up, if you will?
What do you mean? I think I'm a little.
I think Illinois would be more apt to do it than, say, Louisiana.
Yeah,
Louisiana, there are 5 states that just voted on slavery. A lot of people don't know that, and Louisiana was the only one that decided to keep it.
Yeah, I think
they're charming.
I think for me, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's an interesting world that we live in right now. And so I don't know. Like I think it's
like California. Like it'd be someplace that would be all for it.
Colorado. Yeah, I think it kind of, and I think to me, honestly, very truthfully, I think that is what is really interesting and powerful about this movement is there are people that it speaks to, like just individuals in general, who really take it on as their personal fight. And it's and I say this very seriously with if this movement speaks to you, get in contact with us, because while it is very basic, like we've just said, there are a lot of minutia and things that we can help you get to. And we have had people take it on and propose language that is not great or is not as powerful as it could be. And that's a problem. So if you really want the power of the Green Amendment movement, you want to make sure you get that right, like reach out to us. But it really is, I think it just depends on the people who are alive in the era when it comes. And so while definitely political landscapes are everywhere, I don't see it not having the power even. We even have communities in Texas who I don't think people would picture, but who are really engaged and interested. And there's a lot of sacrifice zones there. And that's why that one is really kicking off sometimes too. So I think it really depends. And I think even looking at the political landscape of one state doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go or not go that way.
Right. That's true. No, that's true. Yeah, that's a very a vague interpretation of state politics and very generalized. I agree. But sometimes, I mean, with politicians, with the campaigning, they do that sort of thing. They target like Hillary Clinton. Like, it cost her the election, but like she never went to Wisconsin in the 2016 election because she thought she had it. And every election before that, they always voted blue. Well, she screwed up and it went red. But like that kind of thing, they just target places like the need for their presence the most. So okay, but yeah, you're right. You can't tell until you really get in there and get into the thick of things. One thing that I think people might be concerned about with something like this is that there's still a huge amount of people, and I generally don't like it either. Is the massive amounts of regulation of industry can oftentimes have unintended consequences and not work out as well as the intent of the bill or the regulation is. I think it's a better world when people can freely choose for themselves the right way to go, the right way to be, rather than being forced by external factors to behave correctly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and I think so, one of the big things in green amendments, right, is it's not, me suing Sunoco, let's say. It's me saying, hey, Pennsylvania government, you actually approved this permit for Sunoco to, I'm speaking very general here, like dispose this toxic sludge into the river nearby that actually is my drinking water, and I can prove to you that I'm going to get cancer. There's enough studies to show that this has given other people several diseases. And so what it requires is the government to say, oh, we have to look at the best available science. We have to look at what's actually going to happen to human health. And so where I think that is different is where a lot of regulations, I think, are kind of like, well, this seems fine. This seems good. This is the appropriate amount of toxic pollution we can put in this river now. This is really like, what is actually best for human health? What is actually best for the environment? And that should be the standard across the board, which the last 50 years of environmental laws have not given us.
Okay, so like, and that's, I wanted to ask about this anyway. This is a good segue. New York State put this in their constitution, whatever, a year or 2 years ago, right? Okay, now what? I mean, what does that mean for New York? Like, do you start taking people to court and saying, sorry, you can't pollute because it's in the Constitution? I mean, how does that look on paper or in behavior?
So, it doesn't stop industry, obviously, from attempting to put in projects, from attempting to pollute. It doesn't put that waiver, but it's when there is that government action, when there is that permit approval, or when there is that proposed legislation, then members of the state or the people who live there can say, hey, this is actually a harm to the environment. This is actually a harm to my health. So, a really great example would be if there was now a new zoning that allowed a smokestack to go in to a predominantly BIPOC community. That community can go say, whoa, you putting this in is actually going to increase the rate of asthma and lung cancer and issues here if you do this. So hold on, government, you can't just blanket permit it. So that it gives the power back to the people to go to their government and say, like, this thing that you were allowed to permit or zone or whatever, you actually have to go back and relook and find that science that says you're allowed to do it. And in my opinion, you will never find the science that says a polluting smokestack is good for air quality. So there you go.
Yeah, you won't do that. No, those are contradictions in terms of polluting and healthy. Have you witnessed any legal pushback that you're more concerned about than any other types?
Legal, I don't know. I mean, there's always kind of these industry talking points. So there's always, in New Mexico, the big one is that, the Green Amendment, if it's passed, will pull all the fracking rigs out of the ground, which it won't do. They're in the ground, that legislation, they've been there, that's done. But will it prevent future pollution? Sure. Will it prevent permitting to transport that frack wastewater into already endangered communities? Totally. I think so. That's always one of the big talking points. There's another one that, of course, there's the big one is, this will bring frivolous lawsuits and everybody's going to sue everybody for every little thing possible. And so, like I said, you have to look for the government action anyways. So it's not me suing you for throwing a piece of trash in my yard and saying you're violating my environment. Like, you're not a government actor. That's not going to happen. But also, which always makes me laugh because I know these industry people have all their lawyers, is there are basic systems that we all learn in law school, that we all take first semester of law school, where you are not allowed to bring frivolous lawsuits. If you sign your name to a paper and the judge looks at it and goes, this is silly, it will be thrown out. There are sanctions for lawyers, and you will face fines, and you can get disbarred for bringing things that don't have an actual legal point to it. So even if, and I did actually have one legislator having to explain that too, is just because I pay a lawyer to do a case for me, and just because maybe that lawyer actually does bring it to a judge, does not mean it will have its day in court. It means the judge will read it and decide if it has enough legal merit. And these frivolous lawsuits that they would like to talk about usually will not make their day in court. And if a lawyer signs their name to it, they're risking getting serious fines. They could risk being disbarred. So
that's on the civil side of law, though, right? Criminal is like you have a grand jury that decides if it should go to trial, right?
Yeah, and this wouldn't be criminal law,
right? This would be civil, right? No,
yeah.
This would be civil. Well, I don't know. I mean, unless the corporation like pollutes so much it starts killing people, does that become criminal?
I don't know how that would work. Actually, I don't know. This is the area of the law that I don't know, in the sense of how, if that would be a constitution, that would probably be more in the criminal code of the state.
Right. Okay. So you have your law degree, you passed the bar. Your mom, I think, followed the same path, but neither of you are practicing licensed lawyers right now. You have the power of that degree behind you, which is awesome. What lawyers are actually the ones working for you in order, or with you, to go in case these things go to trial, or do you need a licensed lawyer to go talk to somebody in an official context or something?
So we don't have a lawyer with us right now, just because it's just not, we do a lot of education right now is what we're doing, and a lot of movements to get it through. So there are different lawyers in different states. I don't know New York specifically who the lawyers are who are doing it. But I mean, really, like, anybody could go to an attorney and hire them. Again, it's a matter of if the case has merit, if there's a government actor involved, but it wouldn't have to necessarily be us or be a nonprofit.
Okay, I gotcha. So you don't have any lawyers working for you right now?
Not at the moment. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever had to reach out and hire one for any sort of anything concerning the movement, or?
Not currently. It just hasn't come across and usually, there's so much happening, and because we're getting it proposed in so many states, the nonprofits that are in those states, who are really our partners in it, so they have a lot of those legal expertise. And I mean, it would be great, again, we are a growing movement, so it definitely would be great to grow to that point where we could have all of those attorneys to be those watchdogs and be ready to help out.
Yeah, that would be great. Like I said, I know a lot of lawyers, but most of them are not very nice people. They wouldn't care about that. It's like, how much are I going to get paid? Nothing. Well, okay. Anyway, okay, that's very cool. What's the membership level at now? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I know it's a few thousand. I do know that. I don't know the exact number. And membership is free. Anybody can be a member. You can sign up. And that's just what we do, and it's really great. There is it just allows people to be a part of the movement, and members are always an important part of every nonprofit, to say, these are the people that we represent, these are the people we fight for. And so I always encourage people to be a member. You will get updates, you will get those informations that we send out. It's great. I think I'm a member of many nonprofits.
Yeah, as am I. Yeah, quite a few actually. That's great. And again, this is the for the generations.org. That's where they can go to sign up and find out everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can find, and that's also if you can sign up to be a member. We have lots of those information sheets and resources that you can do to send out. There also, if you're a movie person, we do have a Green Amendment film on there that you can watch. That's where you can order the book.
Wait, what? Talk about the movie. I love movies.
Oh, it's just a little independent film, and it's basically just starts off with how Maya got involved in it. And you do get to meet the original Pennsylvania legislator who proposed the PA Green Amendment back when. There's an interview with the conservative Chief Justice, who in the Act 13 case that Maya talks about, that breathed new legal life into it. So it's a good little backstory, and I think it's very interesting, and I think it's very inspiring. We have a Cornell professor in there who has a really impactful moment, and I think if you watch it, for one thing, watch it for his message at the end. It makes me cry every time. But it's only an hour. Have a little viewing party. I encourage people to have a little viewing party with some popcorn, and then everybody can hang out.
That's a good idea, actually. That's fine. I'll check it out for sure. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. And so let me ask you about that. Like, how do you feel? How do you, for doing this show? And I had radio shows where a lot of this stuff came up too. Like, so doing the research for these kinds of things, I learn a lot of things that are just sort of like kind of like our drag, and it's really like, the IPCC forecast for 7 years from now that globally we need to reduce carbon emissions by 45%, and that seems extremely unlikely that that's going to happen. And then there's a 2050 goal after that to get to net zero, but if we don't reach the one in 7 years, the one in 27 years doesn't matter. And it's all this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm always like, good Lord. Sometimes I just like, it's over, screw it, just whatever. I mean, I don't act that way, but I definitely feels like it. Does it ever like bring you down?
I think it's hard. And I definitely will say as a young person growing up in this era, it is very difficult. And I definitely have had my moments where I feel like there is so much going on. And even with with the environment being my passion, I am constantly torn between, going to movements with my friends who are in the LGBTQIA community, helping BIPOC community, the missing and murdered Indigenous women movement, animal abuse. There's so many things. There's so many things going on. There's so much being brought to light that has gone wrong in our world. It's really difficult. It's really hard. And definitely, every time I see those, like I think it was last week, the doomsday clock moved like 10 seconds forward.
Yeah, so it's now at 90 seconds.
Yeah.
That's because of the Ukrainian war and climate change, yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So it is hard. It is not easy. And I think one of my favorite phrases that I heard a really long time ago is that environmentalists, I think it's environmentalists or activists, I can't remember which one. I always say environmentalists, you work every day to put yourself out of a job.
Right.
So I always think of it that way. I'm like, I would love to not have to do what I do, in the sense of the world would be great for the environment, but I have to do it. And I know for my mom and I, we truly believe there is something in our DNA. We learned several years ago that actually my great aunt, maybe there's another great, actually is a national hero in the Netherlands because she saved over 10,000 Jewish children from the Holocaust. And it was really great to hear that. And I know, like, when we found that out, we just kind of had this moment of that makes sense for our family, and it just feels like there's something. So I think even on the saddest days, I always I might have a really bad day, and I slam my computer and I turn on my tea, and I chug whatever feel good tea, and I cry my and then but I wake up and I'm like, but I can't not do it, because somebody has to do it. And so I think we all have those bad days, and that's you have to have
yeah, we're human. I mean, that's
but you can't give up, because if not you, then who? And I truly believe that for my family, I believe it's in our DNA, and because I see how it pulls at my mom, I see how it pulls at me. I mean, even the days that I want to throw it all at the wall. I'm like, I don't know what else I would do with my life, because nothing else makes sense but this.
Right. No, that's an excellent point. For sure. I know that just as ever since I was a kid, I always had this like probably above average or alternative to the average notion of justice. I've always been like, that's not fair. Why are they doing that? That's not okay. Why are you treating that black person like that? Just because they're black? That doesn't make sense. That kind of stuff. And as I grew older and became, an adult, that kind of thing, you just mature into it more greatly. And and now I just, like I said, like you said, I can't stop doing it. I can't stop talking about it and researching it. And like I said, I do researching on police every single day, literally for over 3 years, and that's a real bummer. Sometimes the stuff I've seen, I'm like, holy shit. So sorry, but it's pretty crazy. So anyway, all right, we got a couple minutes left here. You anything about where it's going, what's happening that you want to talk about?
I think I always push for nonprofits. Donations are great. Definitely, if you can give anything, it's always wonderful. Definitely order a copy of the book. It is a great Valentine's Day is coming up. If you have somebody who is a tree hugger or you'd like to indoctrinate somebody to being a tree hugger, what a great gift. But no, I think the biggest thing, if you ask me about green amendments, what I always say, I think one of the biggest things too is that there are no environmental laws that are advocating for future generations and are so forward looking. First off, there's no environmental laws about, putting it in the Bill of Rights anyways. But this one really, gives that voice to, we have to preserve this place for, the little children right now or future generations that are not here yet. And that there are not really any laws in any area, if you ask me, that are so forward looking. And I think that is what always warms my heart too. And it is a movement for the people, by the people, and everybody. I think if you're interested, go to forthegenerations.org. You will literally get in contact with Maya, me, other members of our staff. You will get a real person, not an automated email. And we just, we believe in it. And I hope everybody's too. And I love opportunities like this of great people like you spreading this message, because that's how we win these things.
Yeah. And another concern is, and again, it doesn't matter, you keep going for it anyway, but is the political divide that we have now is a lot more explicit, a lot more vivid. And I'm wondering if there are people like say on the right aren't going to be for this just because it comes from the left.
I think surprisingly, actually, though, this is a bipartisan movement. Okay, I know we have several states, and I can't remember which ones. I think, if not all of them, most of them are proposed, sponsored, supported by bipartisan support from both aisles, which is, I think, always surprises people. And I think, again, it gets to the heart of the air you breathe does not vote one way. The water you drink is not a specific color. A healthy environment does. It was like the same thing with COVID. COVID didn't care if you voted Democrat or Republican. The environment and the climate does not care who you vote for, and that we all share this planet. So I think being so bipartisan actually also speaks to how powerful it is that the environment is not a political issue. It's a people issue.
I hope that you're right, but now I'm thinking of like you'll see more people on the right not believing in climate change just because it comes from the left.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just, I don't even think about it coming from the left. I think we just have an interesting divide on science, which I don't know where that started or why that started. And so I do hate that. I think it's one of those things that I don't think is inherently political. I think it has been turned that way, but it's not a political issue. So I'm always talking that way about it.
No, I agree. There's lots of things that aren't inherently political that get politicized a lot. Mm-hmm. Just everything in this country gets politicized. It's ridiculous, but and which is just a real tell of like how topics and subjects and movements get hijacked by politics, is when you have this like massive distribution of this side of a topic on the left and the rest of it on the right. That's a very strange distribution. Natural distributions don't tend to happen that readily on one side or another. It's just because you're not believing their side because it's their side, and that's stupid. Mm-hmm. Uniquely evil. This is a guest here. It's hard to believe right-wingers want to do anything helpful for the environment or anyone. Yeah, no, it is hard to believe. And also another little American history. Actually, the words left, right, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal have become so just diluted with everything that it's hard to tell exactly what it is. I suggest if you're going into a conversation about it, you should define your terms first so that everybody knows what they're talking about. Because I see too many people just talking past each other because they mean the same thing, but they're saying it differently or whatever. Mm-hmm. But FDR was a Republican, and he just started the whole national parks thing. Mm-hmm. Republicans were really, really big on protecting the environment, and some of the Democrats were not for a long time. Something happened in the 60s where they the two parties switched ideologies. Yeah. But so now it's kind of the opposite. But no, that's very much true. Uniquely Evil also says it's unbelievable how environmental issues get politicized. It is unbelievable, and it's very unfortunate because it's just too important. Yeah, for us to be bickering against the other side just because it's the other side. That's just utter silliness. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Here, let me put your name back up here, Anneke. I love that name.
Thank you. It's an old family name.
Anneke, that's great. All right, got like 2 minutes left here. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I feel like I did my little wrap up. I mean, if you want to talk about anything, I don't know. Get involved. That's
Get involved, exactly. So let me put this thing up here real quick, and so if you want to get involved in this for the generations. .org. Please go there, check it out. Read Maya's books. What are the name? The second one is just a read.
So they're both just called. If you if you just like Googled the Green Amendment book, there's two of them, and I think it's just called the Green Amendment. One is the first edition, one is the second edition. You can find them both on the website. And the other thing too, I'll just do a little plug. If you would ever like to see Maya and my banter, we do have our own little podcast that we do. It's called Green Genes. Genes is in like GENES.
Oh, that's cute.
So we just talk about important social and environmental justice issues through this like lifelong activist, new activist lens. And it's very fun. Sometimes if you need some mother-daughter dating advice, sometimes we throw quips in there.
Well, I'm well past the age of dating, but okay, other people might not be. I never had success with that. Anyway, what was it? Do you have like chapters throughout the country, or is it all just centrally located where you guys are?
So we I mean, it's just as each state, like it's there's the New Mexico movement or the Florida movement, and so it usually ends up just being a collection of us working with different nonprofits that are there, different community groups, different individuals. So we don't have like here's the New Mexico chapter. It's usually just the collection of people, and we're kind of the
hub.
The hub, and we make sure that every state gets that individual, because it's not a cookie cutter language, like that individual personal language that speaks to them, but we make just help guide that.
Okay, gotcha. That's very cool. All right, well, yeah, and I'm trying to get your mom out because I live in Galesburg, Illinois. Right now I'm in Lake County, but Galesburg, Illinois, and the mayor there is a Green Party member.
Okay.
There's a buddy of mine that actually moved down there specifically because I am certified in horticulture and permaculture. I just bought a plot of land. I'm going to make it a garden thing for the kids and that kind of thing. He's really trying to turn the town green. And so I'm trying to get, and he is also a professor at Knox College too. He's got a PhD in environmental science. Very cool guy. So yeah, I would try to get your mom out there to give a lecture at the college or something like that. You should join her. That'd be great because then we can all have lunch.
That'd be lovely. Great.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. So, member of Green Amendment for the Generations, Anneke van Rossum. Thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time. Learned a lot. Always great to have your mother on. So hopefully everything she's doing now and you're doing, will have success in the future because it's just that important. This isn't something you can ignore.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So go to forthegenerations.org and check it out and become a member. All the proceeds from the book sales and go right back into the movement, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So yeah, that book is worth reading for sure. All right. Hang out for a second there, Anneke. I want to talk to you outside the show. Thank you everybody for tuning into the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. Till next time, be good, be green. And there's going to be an awkward delay here.